We're going to learn in this session how to crochet in the round, which is very important. For the single crochet, there are two ways. You can either spiral your work or you can do it by joining. And then I'm going to show you how to do it in the double crochet as well. So I'm excited to get started with this session, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so when we are working in the round, there are a few things that you need to be aware of. As I said, you have to know about increasing, because if you don't, you're going to just, when you're making a circle, you have to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4 chain. Now it depends on your pattern, but we'll just start with 4, and then we're going to join it in the middle. We're going to join it in the first stitch with a slip stitch. Okay, now however many stitches get put into the center, that's the amount that you're going to be increasing by. So I'm going to put 6 stitches in the center, alright, and it's going to be just simply single crochet. So I'm just going to chain 1, and that's not counted as a stitch. I'm going to then do 6. So 1, 2, 3, and you're doing these single crochets in that center. 4, 5, 6 stitches. Alright, so I've got my 6 stitches in here, my single crochets, and you're going to go slip stitch into this very first stitch over here. Just slip stitch in there and then chain 1. Okay, and then I'm going to just put a little marker, not in the chain 1 but in this last stitch that I had made. I'm just going to put a marker right here in this stitch just before the chain that I had made, so right over there. Okay, now for this first round you're doing 2 single crochets in each stitch, and you need to end up with 12. So 1, 2, that second one is in the same spot, 3, 4, another 2 in the next, 5, 6, 2 in here, 7, 8, 2 in the next, 9, 10, and then 2 in this one over here. Whoops. 11 and 12. Okay, and now you'll see that this is, the marker was where I had slip stitched in, and there's the first chain that I had made. You want to come into this next stitch. So you want to slip stitch in there. I'm going to take my marker out and I'm going to slip stitch in there. And then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to put this through that slip stitch again. Just putting your marker in there. There's the chain 1 that I had done. Alright, now for this round each round you're increasing by 6. So that was 12. This next round needs to have 18 stitches in. And so you're going to do a single crochet, and then 1 single and then 2. Okay, so you do 1 single and then you increase, 1 single, increase, 1 single, increase. So every second stitch you're going to be, every second stitch is an increase stitch, and you don't count this chain as a stitch. Now some people do and some people don't, it just depends, but I'm not counting that as a stitch. But now you want to do a single in the same spot here as you slip stitched. So don't go to the next stitch, it's in the same one. So you're going to do 1 single crochet. That is 1. Then in the next one you need to increase. So this will be number 2 and number 3. The next one is only 1, so that gives me 4. The next one has 2, 5, 6. The next one only has 1, which is 7. This one has 2, number 8, number 9. This one only has 1, that's number 10. Now we have 2, 11, 12. This one has 1, that's 13. The next one has 2, 14, 15. This one has 1, 16, and this next one has 2, 17 and 18. And now you can see this is the slip stitch that we had done. So you don't want to go into that, and you don't want to go into the chain. You want to go into the next stitch. So we're going to just slip stitch into that one. Whoops, going to slip stitch into that one. And chain 1. And then you're going to put your marker, that's the chain 1, into this slip stitch that you had made. Now on this round, you're going to this one, you've got 2 that you have to do. Now you're going to go into the same stitch again. Don't forget about this same spot. You do 1 single in there, 1 single in the next, which is 2, and then 2 in the next. You increase in the next. That's 3 and 4. Okay, then 1, that's 5, 1, that's 6, and then 2 in here. 7 and 8. 1 in here, which is 9, 1 in the next, which is 10, and 2 in here, number 11 and 12 in the same one. 1 in the next, that's 13, 1 in the next, 14. Now you do 2 in here, 15, 16. 1 in the next, 17, 1 in the next, 18, 2 in here, 19 and 20. Okay, 1 in the next, 21, 1 in the next, 22, and 2 in here, 22, that'll give me 23 and 24. And that is consistent with our going in the round. And now you can see that you are getting a flat circle and not a circle that's crunching up like this. When it starts doing this, you don't have enough increases. It needs to be lying flat like that. Then on your next round, round 5, you single crochet 3. So single, 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 and then you increase. Single, 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 increase. And each round it increases in. So this round you have to do 3 and then you increase. The next one you do 4 and then you increase. The next would be 5 and then you increase. And you just keep doing that till that's how you get your circle. So now you can see that was the slip stitch that is on. That's the chain, and this is the stitch that I want over here. So you're going to slip stitch in this stitch, chain 1, and put a marker in the slip stitch right over here. And you can see you've got a nice clear little join. There's different ways of doing it. This is just the way that I've done it. And now once again you've got to go into this first. Just don't forget to go into that same stitch as you had slip stitched into. Now this round we have 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then you do 2 in the next one. So 3 and 4 and 5 are together. Then you do 1, that's 6, 2 is 7, 3 is 8, and then 2 in here, 9 and 10. And that's what you keep doing to go around, and that's how you increase. So then, as I said, the next round would be every 4th one, then you increase, and then the next is every 5th one you increase, and then every 6th one you increase. And each time your multiple goes from 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. And that's how you circle go in the round. And then you would just follow your pattern until they tell you to stop increasing. You would just go around and follow your pattern till you have the correct circle that you are needing. Now that's crocheting in the round, and that's round. Now a lot of times you don't want to join, you just just keep going in a spiral. There's no specific join like I have. You just keep going around in a spiral, and that's also an interesting one. It seems to be like it's a little bit easier because you don't have to stop and start, and I'll show you how you do that. So to do it as a spiral, many hats are worked in this way. A lot of things are, but it's up to you as to which one your pattern calls for and which one you intend to use. So you've got your 6 stitches in there, and you're going to slip stitch into this. Alright, so to do your spiral, you do the same technique, except you're just going around and around. So I've got my 6. Now you're going to take a marker like you did, and you're going to put it in this very last, you just get a stitch marker, put it in this very last stitch that you had made. Alright, just like that, and then you're going to come and you're going to work the same increases. So it's exactly the same. The first round is just 2 increases, except you're not slip stitching. You're going to go into this one and start with your single crochet. So you've got to do 2 in each round, in each stitch. So yeah, I'm doing 2. I just went straight ahead and did 2. My next one, I do another 2. So that's 4. And you need to do 2 in each. 5, 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. And in the last one, which should be before that one, 11 and 12. Okay, and then you can take your marker out and put it in this very last stitch again that you had just made. Okay, so you've got your marker in that very last stitch. Now you're not going to skip any and do what you did with the other one. You're going into this very next stitch right over here. And with this round, it's 1 single. Every second one has a increase. So that's 1. Whoops. 1. 2 and 3 are in this one, 4 in the next, 5 and 6 in the next, 5 and 6 in that one, 7 in the next, 8 and 9 in the next one, 8, 9, 10 in the next, 11 and 12 in the next, 11 and 12, 13 in that one, 14 and 15 in the next, 16 in the next, and then 17 and 18 in the last one. 17 and 18 in your last one. Okay, so this is a little bit easier, but they both have their place. Then you put this in that last stitch again. And now for the next round, you have to do, you're working in this one where you took your marker out of, you're going to do 2. So 2 singles and then increase. So 1, 2, and then we increase. 3 and 4. Next one is 5, 6, and then 7 and 8. 7 and 8 in here. Then 9, 10, 11 and 12 in here, 11 and 12 in there, 13, 14, 15 and 16 in this one, 17 in the next, 18 in the next, 19 and 20 in the next, 21, 22, and then in your last one, 23 and 24. And your last stitch is before this one. So this is going to start your next one. So now you take your marker out and you put it in this last stitch that you had just made, right over there. And then you just continue. You would work in this one, and that's working in a spiral. It's just going around and around as a spiral. So those are the 2 ways of making your circle, either by using a chain 1 or by just going around as a spiral, just going round and round and round. And you increase with the same principle as I told you right in the beginning. Now to do it with a double crochet is going to be much the same thing. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. Alright, so for crocheting in the round, I'm going to go ahead and do 6 chain, and I'm going to single crochet, slip stitch into that first single, and then I have my ring. And you can always pull this to tighten it, but there's the ring that you want. Now you start off with chain 3 because this is the amount you use for a turning chain. Even though you're going in the round, your 3 are going to count as a stitch. Now I'll explain counting this as a stitch or not, but we're counting this as a stitch, so that's number 1. And I'm going to put 8 in here. 2, 3, 4, and 8. Okay, so you have your 8 in here. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes, but this is going to change our count because I'm going in multiples of 8 now, which means I'd have to go 8, 16, 24, 32. So now you're going to count to the third, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to slip stitch into your third chain. There's the next stitch, so you're not going into that one. You're just slip stitching into that third chain. Alright, now there are quite a few different ways that you can do this in the round. I'm going to show you the way that I prefer and that I think is the best. You're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. If you want to, you can put your marker in that last stitch that you had crocheted. In my 3, you can put a stitch marker in your last stitch if you want to. Now this is going to be counting as a stitch when I work. When you did your single crochet, you went into this very same stitch, which is right over here, this little gap over here. You went into that one as well. We're not going to do that. Now some of them do tell you to go into that. For the 2 other methods they go into this, but I'm not going into the, I prefer the way this works. So that's counted as 1. This is your very next stitch that you would go into over here. Alright, but until we get there, you're having to do 2 doubles in each one of these stitches. So because this is counted as a stitch, I need to do another one in here, and this is just for your first round. So you do it in that little space over here, not there by your V, in this little space. Okay, and that's going to give me 2, and then in the next one over here you can see there's your next stitch, 2 in there. Okay, so I've got 2 there. I need to do another 2 in this next stitch, and that'll give me 4. I have to have 16 stitches altogether, so that's 4. There's the next one, 5, 6. And if you're struggling to see them, just turn your work like this. You can see there your stitches are 7 and 8. There's the next one, 9 and 10. There's the next one, 11 and 12. And I'm going through these 2 stitches, 13 and 14, and in these 2, 15 and 16. Okay, and I can take my marker out. You really don't need it, but just if you want to do. Now we're going to slip stitch into the top of our 3 chain, 1, 2, 3. That's where it is, and that's your next stitch. So just into there. Okay, now what we're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now this is where the different schools of thought come in. They say that you can do your chain 3 and then, like I said, go into this very same space like you did. That's my first stitch. You can see this is my first stitch over here. This isn't a proper V. We are going to go into the first stitch. I'm going to do the first. I'm going to work with you doing it my method, and then I'll explain the others. I don't want to confuse you as we go. I'm not going in there. I'm going to go into my very first stitch, which is here, because this is counted as a stitch. Now my next round is 1 single increase, 1 single increase, 1 single increase. So I've got 1 single, and then I'm going to do an increase here. And when I say single, it's a double crochet, but I mean only one single double crochet. Okay, next one is just 1. And this round I need to have 8, 16, 24 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a double. An increase. 5 and 6. Number 7. This is increase here. 8 and 9. This is 10. And 2 in here. 11, 12. 1 in there. 13. 2 in here. 14 and 15. 1 in here. 16. 2 in here. 17 and 18. And I have to have 24. 1 in here. That's 19. 2 in the next. 20. 21. 22. And then 2 in this one. 23. 23 and 24. Okay, so you're finishing just before this over here, which is 1 stitch, and then you're going to slip stitch 1, 2, 3 in the top chain. Okay, and there you have your circle starting to be around. Okay, and once again you're going to chain 3. I'll show you this round and then I'll show you the other way of doing it. 1, 2, 3 chain. We don't go into that very same stitch. We're going to go into this stitch, which is a V right over here. So we're not going in that space there, we're going into this stitch. So that's 1, 2, and then we have increase here. 3, 4. Then we have 2, 5, and 6. And then you have your increase for 7 and 8. And we have number 9, number 10, and then an increase for 11 and 12. I'm going to go around and I'll meet you back here and we'll do this one more time. I'm just going to continue with my increase. I've got my last 2, 31 and 32. And now you're just going to keep doing this, and then you slip stitch into that top stitch again, the top chain. And then you just continue with your increasing pattern. You just keep increasing. Now we do chain 3, which would be 1 stitch. I would go into this stitch over here. That's the second, the third, and then I increase. Next 3, and then increase. So the same pattern. But that's how you do it with the double crochet. And you're doing it in the round, and you're counting this. Now, the other 2 methods, that I'm sure there are a lot more, but another method that your pattern might say is to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. The other 2 that I'm going to show you all work into the same space. They would say that's the one pattern will say you count that as a stitch, but then you're going to come into here with your second stitch, 1, 2, and then you come into here with your third. Okay, and then you would keep going around like that. That's the one method. Alright, so I just want to show you the other 2 methods now. When you count this as a stitch and you go into this very first space, this is where you will end up. You will end up where you have an extra stitch over here. And then what you'd have to do is slip stitch into the top here. Okay. And you end up having a bit of a gap over here, and I don't like that. So it's just, that's what happens if you do it where you start right in here. It's just because you're really starting in a stitch before. Now some people will say that you don't count this as a stitch, which is great. Alright, we don't count it and we start in here, but that means I can do one more stitch right up here, which seems to be working out wonderful, but now I've got an extra turning chain which isn't counted. So they don't go into the top of the third, they go into the stitch over here, and that's not considered a stitch. And then we chain 3 again, and we would go into the same space, but this now is counted as a stitch 1. and then this would be number 2, and then that chain is not counted. It closes up nicely, but you're ending up with a bit of a ridge here where you join your stitches. So I don't recommend using those two. I recommend using the way that I showed you, and if your pattern tells you to do it that way, you can just change it by not counting this first space here, by going into the first actual V like I showed you. So those are the methods of going in the round with your double crochet. And this keeps your work flat, and this is what you use for doilies, what you use for hats, or anything that you want to crochet in that regard. Now I want to go ahead and show you how to make our hat. We're going to start off and we're going to just use double crochet for the whole hat, and we might do a little border at the bottom, but I want to go ahead and show you how to do that so you can start with your hat.